David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today, I have for you a review of a pen from a company which is celebrating the 100th anniversary of its founding, and that would be Otto Hutt. The pen I have for you today is their celebration of that anniversary, the Design C. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Design C, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. It is a rather polarizing pen. It's one that folks will either love or hate. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Kenro Industries, who are the U.S. distributors for Otto Hutt, as well as several other brands. They have provided this very nice pen on loan for review. This is my very first time reviewing a pen from Otto Hutt. I have one of their other pens in my review queue, but it's a brand that has started to gain some recent traction in the US, so I felt it was a good opportunity to get a look at an introduction to the brand. The company is based out of Germany and was founded back in 1920 by Karl Hutt, and eventually was handed over to his son, Otto Hutt, who changed the name of the company to his name. Now, through all of my research, I could not for the life of me find out what the original name of the company was before it was changed to Otto Hutt. If you happen to know what that original name was, feel free to leave a comment below. The Design C is a unique pen that, for reasons that will become clear here in a minute, is very tough to photograph. So I felt that the best thing to do would be to give you a close-up look at the packaging and the pen live rather than in pictures. So in order to get that closer look, please join me over here at camera 2. The pen arrives in this large box. It is debossed with the company name, and you can see here it is celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the founding of the company. There is a little ribbon on the side, and the button here is also engraved with 100. And inside we have a few things. First, here is the pen. I just wanted to give you a quick look at it. It is made from sterling silver with some 18 karat gold accents. This is a limited edition of 500 units, but we will get back to the pen in just a minute. Here we have this nice booklet. It has some neat pictures in here. This pen was designed by Mark Braun. This is a picture of Mark. He is a prominent figure in German product and industrial design, specializing in a lot of minimalistic design. Mark has stated that he wants to design products that will have longevity and follow the concept of democratic luxury. If you buy a pen like this every year, then it's very expensive and unreasonable. But if you make a one-time purchase to last a lifetime of a pen that is well designed, super functional, then even though the price might be high, it's not expensive. And I find that philosophy to be a bit contradictory to the design of this pen. I'll go into much more detail later, but I wouldn't categorize this pen as the only one you'll ever need. I can't describe it as an everyday carry pen. Here we have a certificate of authenticity and the unique number of this pen. Then we have a little card here which advises you to not try and remove the nib or the section yourself. You could potentially damage the pen. That's nice that they let you know that up front. Then we have a polishing cloth that you will definitely use. Now, I believe this is just for light cleaning. It doesn't feel like it's treated with a chemical like the cloths that remove tarnish from sterling silver. If you don't already own one of those cloths, if you pick up this pen, that's something you'll want to invest in as well, in order to keep this pen looking pristine for as long as possible. Then we have a bottle of blue permanent ink. This is a 30 milliliter bottle, and as you'll see in the writing sample, this ink dries incredibly fast on certain paper. It really surprised me. And then finally, we have a nice leather pen case. It's molded to fit the design of the Design C, which is nice. And I will say that this case doesn't feel especially luxurious, and some parts feel a bit stiff, especially this part right here. The pen does fit in there nicely, but I'm not sure if over time some of this stiff leather might cause some micro scratches on the cap. I would have hoped for something a little bit softer, at least with a softer interior that really makes it feel like you are pampering your pen whenever you put it in there. Okay, enough with the accessories. Let's actually look at this pen. Let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit closer. This is the Otto Hutt Design C. As I mentioned, it is made from sterling silver. This pen will be a fingerprint magnet. I polished it before putting it in the box, and by the end of this review, you will probably notice a bunch of fingerprints on it. You're going to need to accept the fact that this will have fingerprints all over it, unless you will find yourself compulsively polishing this pen every time you touch it. This material is also susceptible to some micro scratches, so this isn't going to be a pen which stays 100% pristine and new, no matter how careful you are with it. That's just the nature of this material. The silver does make the pen feel very solid. It is not light, but I wouldn't describe it as being unnecessarily heavy. The end of the cap is rounded, and near the end it is engraved with Germany. Let's actually find that. There it is. It's hard to get that in light. There it is. There it says Germany. The cap is straight, and then at the end it actually has the number of this pen, which as you can see here, it says that it is 500, and this is pen number 115. The pen is clipless, but it does have these two metal nubs, which the company describes as being indices, which is an alternate plural for the word index. These indices act as a stylistic element to break up the abundance of silver on this pen, and they also act as a roll stop, which is nice to have on a clipless pen. You wouldn't want this thing rolling off of your desk. The silver would most likely dent, which would not be a good thing. The seam between the cap and barrel is very smooth. Both the cap and barrel are straight. And then here at the end, there is a piston knob, which is incorporated into a rather unique filling system, which I'll talk about more in a minute. And the end of the barrel is rounded like the cap. The cap twists off in just under 2 rotations. The threads are very smooth. It has a single entry thread, so the indices will always align when capped. And that seeing them come together when the cap is fully affixed is rather satisfying, seeing them kind of align like that. The interior of the cap is lined in plastic. You can see it kind of in there. Once you remove the cap, you are presented with this 18 karat gold two-tone nib. I believe Jowo makes the nibs for Otto Hutt, and Jowo makes some very nice gold nibs. You'll see in the writing sample, this one performs very well. I like the Otto Hutt logo and design stamped on the nib. I like how the M indicating this is a medium nib aligns with the center line, and the line aligns with the breather hole and the tine slit. Now, I will say that I noticed the coloring on the nib was off slightly in relation to the tine slit. I would not assume that would be the case on every nib, but it was on this one. And here's a look at the plastic feed. I kind of wish there was something more unique about this nib and feed. After all, this is designed to be a very unique celebration pen, and in essence, they have a stock Jowo nib and a stock plastic feed. Now, maybe they could have done something to extend the minimalistic design, maybe a low-profile ebonite feed, or at least something different than you've seen on many other pens. Then we have this section. It is a PVD treated metal. The ridges provide an excellent surface to maintain a solid grip. Ridges like these can be a bit polarizing, but they work for me. Would I want them on every pen I own? No, but as an alternative, I feel they work well. It looks similar to the section found on the Lamy Emporium, but the section on the Lamy is much more tapered, and this one here is only slightly tapered, less than 1 millimeter of rise from beginning to end. I really also like that the threads blend in with the section. You really don't even notice them there. They're basically invisible unless you really get a close look at them. The cap does not post, which is fine. The downside to that is that if you hold on to the cap with your opposite hand, like I tend to do, then it's going to cause more fingerprints. But like I said previously, this feels very solid in your hand. And while I find it comfortable in the hand, I do find it to be a bit back-weighted. The balance point is a bit far back in this pen. I believe it's due to the metal parts contained in the piston mechanism. Speaking of the filling system, let's take a closer look at it. It is rather unique. They describe this as a pull and twist piston system. It's a rather unique mechanism that takes some getting used to and a bit of practice. It took me a while. It can be a little bit clunky to operate at times. When the knob is in the writing position, it will not rotate, which is nice, so you can't accidentally engage the piston, which is a good feature. You pull the piston out to the first position, and then and it just circles around, and then you pull it out to the second position, there, just like that, and that engages the piston. And then you operate it like you would any other piston filler. There's ink in it now, so I'm not going to twist it. There is a clutch mechanism that will click when the piston is fully retracted. And like I said, I have ink in here, so I can't demonstrate that, but I've always liked that ratcheting feature in other pens. Once you have filled the pen, you push down the knob to that first position. Think of it like throwing a stick shift into neutral. And then you can spin it around freely until you line, where is it? There it is. Until you line this line up. There, now we can get a look at it. You can spin this around and you line up that line with the line between the Otto Hutt logo. And you could also see here that it says 925, signifying the sterling silver on this pen. There is no ink window on this pen, so you'll need to have a good feeling about your ink situation. The Design C is Otto Hutt's most expensive pen. Their Design 7 retails for around $800, and their Design 8 sells for about $1,200. The retail price for the Design C is $4,250. But through authorized dealers, you'll find this pen for 20% less, which brings the price down to $3,400, which is still a lot for a pen. But when you're talking about pens in this price range, you are paying for more than just a writing instrument. So what are you paying for with this pen? You are paying for a limited edition model celebrating the company's centennial. You're paying for the unique look in the designer's name, as well as the unique filling system. And you're paying for the large quantity of sterling silver and a bit of solid gold. This pen looks very simple, but in a way that stands out. It's been very fun to play around with for a little while. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a rather surprising writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Otto Hutt Design C. Here it is with the ASC Bologna Extra Arco. Here it is with a Pelican M1000. And here it is with a Mont Blanc 149. In regard to some other pens, here it is with a Classic Pens LB5, a Pilot Custom Urushi, and then finally a Sailor King of Pen in Ebonite. There we go. Make it straight. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Sailor King of Pen in Ebonite, the Mont Blanc 149, and the Pelican M1000. Here we go with the writing sample for the Otto Hutt Design C. And this is a medium 18 karat gold nib. And the ink that I'm using is the ink that came with this pen, which is the Otto Hutt Permanent Blue. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice solid royal blue. It's somewhat similar to the J. Herbin 1670 Ocean Blue. And then this is what it looks like with the Pelican 4001 Royal Blue, which is a little bit lighter. The thing that I thought was very interesting about this ink is how quickly on this Rhodia paper the ink dries. So I just test and I let it dry for just a second and it is almost dry. Now, if you do it on some, this is some Tomoe River paper, it takes a little bit longer to dry on the Tomoe River paper, but on the Rhodia paper, it does dry incredibly fast, especially since it is laying down a great deal of ink. You can see that it only took about 5 seconds and it was completely dry. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This 18 karat gold nib is very nice. It's fairly smooth with just a hint of feedback. You can get a decent amount of line variation out of here. And the ink flow is rather generous. And I think the combination of having this fairly dry ink, or this quick drying ink, with a kind of a gusher of a pen works well. Now I haven't tested it with an ink that doesn't quite dry as fast, but it's so far it's very pleasant with this ink. In regard to reverse writing, it's very decent and actually fairly smooth. In regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine. So here we have the Otto Hutt Design C. I think this will be a rather polarizing pen for some folks. A lot of folks will look at it and see the value in this pen. They'll appreciate the minimalistic design, the unique design elements, the unique filling system, and the outstanding performance. And then others will look at it and kind of question where the value is. So like I said, I don't think it's a pen for everyone, but if it's something that interests you, it does look very interesting and it performs outstanding. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.